Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, this is Those Guys with your host Matt Marrero along with the other host.
Witness me! Oh, no, wait. Tristan Walter. Sorry.
It's actually Mad Matt over here with Tristan Walter. Tristan,
no.
I stubbed my toe.
Does that mean you're gonna come after me and kill me now, Matt?
I mean, it was what was it called? It was always inevitable.
Yeah,
that's
fair.
the way I look at it. But yeah, right. No, but yeah, right. Well, you know what? Here's the thing, all right, sir. We could have done this podcast at any time, all right? But we're doing it now, and this is when we're recording it. I don't know when people are listening to it. And we're doing it now, all right?
Okay.
I'm sorry that I couldn't do this podcast other times. Neither
we're
could.
Live, baby.
Yeah, we're live right now, just fighting. Just immediately, it starts like a normal argument, then it turns into a war, and then all of a sudden
Right.
it's just you and I going full fist of the North Star.
Right, we're dueling
all
on
up in
motorcycles.
this.
Exactly.
Yeah, dueling on motorcycles, and then immediately taking our hands off the wheel and fighting each other on motorcycles. But anyway, so what are we talking about today? We're talking about the first Mad Max. We're also talking about the original. And Tristan, I was supposed to send you, I wasn't able to in time, but I was supposed to send you a trailer for the American dub, which is not a joke.
Oh, Lordy.
Back when this movie first came out, and to be fair, the accents were pretty thick, and there was a lot of Australian slang, to be fair. But back
True.
when the movie came out in 1979, AIP got the rights to the film in the U.S., and they thought that no one was going to understand what was going on. So they legitimately, AIP, if you don't know, dubbed over like Gamera. So they legit brought in voice actors to dub them over in English.
Oh, God.
So even though they're speaking English, basically it would just be like, hello, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fight. It's like, we're going to do this now. I don't know how the scene went with I don't like guns and stuff like that, but there are trailers out with the American dub.
Right.
Yeah, so up until I think the early 2000s, no one in the U.S. legally saw the movie in anything but its quote-unquote American dub. It was once the DVDs came out in the 2000s that they brought over the original.
Right.
Yes, interesting.
I'll admit, there were a few scenes where I was a little confused as to what was going on, but I don't know, I kind of, I guess, denoted that to what was going on, or
well, I think, yeah,
seeing as how it's post-apocalypse and some people are just insane.
Oh, okay, yes, in that regard as well. Yeah, well, basically what happened with me was, and I also think another thing too, the reason why it's a bit easier to infer, I think, some stuff now, I'm not in any way saying, we're smarter than people in 1979, but we do have to admit that I don't feel like everybody, you and I are just smarter than everyone in 1970. But, however, I would like to...
I mean that, no.
Yeah, right. I know, but I think we should admit, though, and if anyone wants to fight us on this, please comment below, wherever you're listening to this. I have to admit, though, I think overall, anyone today, the amount of media that you could be exposed to, you could be a bit more on the up and up, at least in terms of this might be meaning this, or just being able to just, take out a smartphone and Google a term that you didn't get.
Right.
Yeah. So, back then, hearing Max's wife saying, "Oi," people be like, "What?" And you can't just, in 1979, you can't even go home to look on a computer to be like, "Why? What does "oi" mean?" Right? Where, now,
I mean, I'll admit, I was okay with that one. You can kind of infer the context of that, saying she's trying to get his attention. No, I know what you mean.
But literally, but it's funny, though, because in Japanese, you'd hear oi, and you'd be like, you'd translate to hey. So like
Right.
the fact that that's so I'm saying, but like the fact that
I
it's
see.
just being
Yeah.
yes,
Gotcha.
just certain slang and words like that. If it was from Japanese, like an actual dub, you'd get them translated. Or if it really needed to be explained, which I hate translators' notes, like while you're watching something subtitles, but you would still, if it needed to be explained,
Keikaku means plan.
you know. Ugh. But but you see what I mean, though, right? But back then,
You should be able to hack your way
dub-
out of this in 5 minutes. That'll go off in 10. He means that he wants him to hack off his ankle. No.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You think I look funny, eh? Translator's note: he thinks he looks hilarious. Damn it!
Oh my god. Yeah.
But no, yeah. So I understand sort of, but it also is obviously very frustrating because It's funny though, they didn't get Mel Gibson to dub himself over, so someone else dubbed over Mel Gibson. Let's just because this is one of Mel Gibson's earliest roles.
Right. Still might have
So
been for the
he
best,
literally. Yeah, right. I think he literally did only one other movie before this. So this is really early on in his career. Yeah.
Yeah. No wonder I didn't recognize him at first.
Well, he's so young. Like when we think of like breakdown Mel Gibson, that's like 10 years ago, and he's currently 62. Yes, he's. Despite everything that you can say about him, that's probably right. I don't mean Nutrition. I mean everyone out there. Despite everything you say about him, he looks very young. Like I don't know how bigotry leads to exercise, but shit, he looks great. Like he really looks good, and I actually, all jokes aside, when you look at him, yeah, sure, he has like a long, scraggly beard, but he doesn't look like, oh God, that's a very old man. So I don't know what it is, but he looks good. So thinking like, oh God, he was in his 50s when he said all that shit.
Right.
It's crazy to think about. Like, wow, he's in his 20s in 1979. You're like, what the fuck? But anyway, what matters is that Okay, so I have a question for you. So first of all, I'm not going to say like, oh, I didn't like the movie, I hated the movie or anything like that, but do you think that maybe in some way or another more focus needed to be on Max and his struggles? Like, I love the world building, but I feel like in a movie that's called Mad Max, I feel like we needed more from Max, and that's not a shot at Mel Gibson at all.
Yeah.
That's do you feel the same way?
There's plenty of other ammunition for him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's funny. I feel like this was kind of like, not that there was no plot at all, but it felt like this was supposed to be the straight up classic action movie. It's like, tragic thing happens to hero gets revenge, or hero gets the bad guy, and like that's it. That's what it's supposed to be. And the rest of it's kind of taken up by the cars and the action scenes, which are great, by the way. Like, the stunts look actually amazing for the 70s.
Not just for 70s, for such a low budget.
Yeah.
Like,
and
let me explain to you how they got the budget for this. The two creators of the film, they both met at like a film class, and they're both actually worked as surgeons. So they would basically stitch up people who would come in at night, coming in from car crashes. So they understood the dangers of these crashes. They also loved cars themselves, but they would see people coming in from these wrecks, and also see these cars, how they looked from these wrecks. So that kind of inspired them. That, along with the oil crisis in the 70s, where they had people in line. Yeah, people were actually in line, like in their cars, waiting for oil. And some people would try to cut the line, and they would see how they would be met with brutality.
Yeah.
So literally, it's like some guy trying to cut the line, people would just beat the shit out of him.
Right.
So, and also the long-running joke, even from people from Australia who were like, yeah, we'll beat the shit out of you. Like, just in general. So just that added on with something. It's not even just me saying it. I'm not being a dick. Like, people from Australia being like, no, we'll kick some ass. Right? Not like stupid Crocodile Dundee shit. Like actual, like, no, we'll fuck you up. So, but mixed in with an actual problem like that oil crisis really brought these two people to think of like some kind like these kind of scenarios. So in that regard, that's kind of why what I was trying to get at too was like they raised the money by just taking on extra shifts. And I think they had like another friend or brother come in also to like help finance the movie, but it's not like this is like a big budget Hollywood film. I guess it wasn't filmed in Hollywood, but still, it's a low budget, like, obviously, right? But it's not even like, oh, we're filming on location in Australia. Like, no, it's like, no, we're if they had, I think it was one of the creators said, if we had gotten some Hollywood actor, someone from LA, because they even tried to go to LA to be like, oh, let's see if we can get someone from here. If they did that, it would have eaten up most of the budget. So they were like, fuck it, let's get some locals.
Right. Yeah.
Like, literally, when they were done with wrecks, like, so when a car, you know, like, or a bicycle, whatever, exploded or some shit on the fucking highway, they would sweep it up.
Yeah.
They would sweep it up themselves.
Damn.
So that the local police wouldn't be like, fuck's going on here. They had, but they didn't have any permits.
Oh, my God, right. The shit you could get away with back in the day.
Well, also because, I mean, you see where they're filming. I assume there's some places in the U.S. you could probably get away with it if you're not urban. Yeah.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like we're saying this because I'm saying this out loud now in front of an audience. We can never do this. I'm sure there's some places in Selden, just in Long Island in general. I'm sure you can get away with some shit like that at night.
Yeah, well, there are plenty of people that drive exactly like that movie out here in Selden.
Yeah. Wait, this one or Fury Road?
Yes.
Oh, so you saw Fury Road, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so and it's funny because I have another friend too who's coming on to do another podcast that we're not disclosing yet. It's a secret. So we have another friend who's coming on to do a podcast. He's also seen Fury Road, but not this movie. It's very interesting. Fury Road seems so like, I'm sure there were references that you may not have gotten, but it seems so even though it was made by the same creators or creator of Mad Max, it still seems interesting that it was so detached in a way that people can just jump in and be like, I want to see Mad Max Fury Road, and not feel like there's a huge disconnect.
Yeah. Because I feel like there's so much time that goes by. So like obviously it's the same setting, but like there's so much time in between that. I mean, I might have missed more references, but like the references with Max are like more about his character, but the rest of what's going on in the movie is pretty much easy enough to follow because he just kind of stumbles into the plot of this one, basically. It feels like to me, anyway.
Right. Well, here's what's interesting. The warlord in Fury Road, the one with the mask, I don't know his name because I haven't seen the film.
Yeah.
His actor plays Toe Cutter in this movie, so he's the main villain in this movie.
That would make sense. They do.
Yeah,
I could see it.
Well, he's very animated as an actor, very good character actor.
No, even in his face too. I'm like, he looks awfully familiar. Even with all the makeup and everything on him in the newest one, I'm like, I think you're him.
Yeah, that's funny. But here's the one thing. You mentioned how he just kind of stumbled into the plot in this movie. This movie, just because I think it was really meant to be a one-off, I'm sure maybe they would have gone for something more post-apocalyptic if they had the budget, but I do think that also... that's my feeling. But I do think because it was a one-off, they really were, like, it's funny. Today, I feel like we would call this half a movie because we know that corporations that want to push superheroes that we love, but still they want to push superheroes, they'd be like, oh, this is just an origin story. But that's not what this was really meant to be. At least my take on it is that, because I don't think they sat there like, yeah, we'll make 3 more after that. That wasn't really the mindset in 1979. Like, of course, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, cinema was brand new. Like, no, we had movies since the fucking 1920s, right? But the idea of having a huge franchise with 4 movies and a fucking video game, fucking Nintendo didn't even exist as the, Nintendo NES yet.
Right. Yeah.
So it's so you don't have. I mean, funnily enough, we've only had 2 Mad Max official games. We've had the one on the NES and the one on the PS4. That's it. So it's. I'm not gonna say. I love it. Just Matt. You run a Let's Play channel. Those guys play. You just look that up. Yeah. Second I saw Mad Max, I was like, how many of these exist? Because I know that the PS4 game existed, and there's only 2 fucking games for Mad Max. Funnily enough, so it's not even like this series is as huge. Like, it's huge, but funnily enough, I feel like the series has this weird status where it's higher than a cult following, but I don't know if at this point in its lifespan it's on it's like on a mainstream level. You would think with the PS4 game and with Fury Road, but I don't know. I feel like there's this tilt where the first one was a cult classic. Now I don't know if I want to call it a cult classic because I think more people have seen it than just calling it a cult classic.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not. As far as I know, there aren't like that many comic book tie-ins or adaptations. It's not like Ghostbusters, or even Evil Dead, which now has a TV show on Starz. There's all these different, comic book adaptations. I mean, there's a comic book, fucking Freddy versus Jason versus Ash.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be a movie at one point in the 90s or the 2000s, but it never materialized. So then they took the screenplay for it, they adapted it a little bit, and they turned it into a comic book. Right. So, but here with Mad Max, we never really got that. And, that's why, like, the whole idea is what I'm saying is this movie is really just an interesting standalone piece, not really meant to be like this, and then in the next movie, I don't really see that. That's not really, because I think what happens is we come at this movie from like a 2018 perspective. Oh, so I want to make sure that you and I, and also anyone watching and listening to this review, kind of sheds that off of them, remembering this came out in '79. Yeah. This arguably is one of the movies that pioneered a type of dystopian future like this, which is why I would argue it's, along with its budget, why it didn't look as dystopian as we would think. Something like, even though there was time between them, not just in terms of filmmaking, but in terms of the setting, when you look at Fury Road comes out 2 years ago. Of course, when we think post-apocalyptic, we think of something that looks like Fury Road. Right, yeah. Took it in a way like the first movie's post-apocalypse is kind of like a few years after whatever apocalyptic event takes place, and like it's not, or like in it's still center. In the transition. That too, or if it's like off from the main conflict. So like people obviously there's still roads, people still have their houses, but there's not a lot of supplies, so stuff looks like it should. Like stuff looks normal, but it's a bit more run down. And of course, the 80s aesthetic for clothing just mixed with this just makes it, I don't know, it gives it that alien flair of, this is a different world than ours. Well, remember 2 things. One, late 70s. You think it's 80s because of what anime were inspired from this. So obviously, that's true. Yes. It is anyone out there who's but it's funny though, because anyone out there, it's like, what anime was inspired by this? All you fucking have to say is like Fist of the North Star. Yeah, Fist of the North Star. People are like, oh shit. Literally. Also,
I have to laugh because for a split second, I knew it wasn't going to happen, but just for a second, my mind went to like the first scene when they're chasing the guys down the highway and Max is sitting in wait. I thought for sure he was going to get out of his car at some point and just point at them and go, It's kind of, I mean, well, let's be honest, though. It definitely does seem like that was really inspired by this. Yeah. Also, so this is a live action of, So this is the live action movie of Fist of the North Star, right? Well, there have been live action movies in Japan, but putting that aside, yes, I know. No, but it really is though. Like, not even just that. I'm pretty sure. Because I'm pretty sure it came. Definitely.
But not just that. I'm pretty sure because it came after this. Another big influence, I would argue, or this influencing it rather, is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah.
Like looking at
Fist of the North Star was a big influence for JoJo, and Mad Max was a big influence for Fist of the North Star. So.
But not just that. Looking at like Toe Cutter's hair and his general facial features, I just see him as a JoJo character, and he had to have been. Like there has to be a few JoJo characters based off him.
Possibly.
But I'm being somewhat serious. Like I see a little bit of Dio in there. I see a little bit of like anyone who's ever been one of the vampires in JoJo looks a little bit like the ones that aren't like because he had that Asian assistant, so obviously not him. But there were others that I'm like, you kind of look like Toe Cutter. Just the face and also the way he grabs other people's faces. Like it's very. Oh, another person too that I feel like, and this one I don't have any confirmation on. It just looks 100% fucking accurate. Sabretooth from X-Men. You see it, right?
Yeah.
Just the hair and the face, and also the fact that like obviously Sabretooth has the hair on the sides just because, he's fucking Sabretooth. But his is more like a leather jacket, puffiness. But I look at that and I'm like, you kind of look like Sabretooth a little bit, funnily enough. Not like some of the live-action adaptations, although the one from the original X-Men, like 2000, he looks a little bit like that one, but I'm referring to like some of the animated stuff and even the comics. He kind of looks like him, which is a little funny. So yeah, Mad Max, we have to remember, 1979, huge inspiration for a lot of the media we know today, and I think that's why this movie can come off in some ways, and I hate to use this word. I don't use this word out of to say that I hate Mad Max. It's just a sad truth because that happens to some movies that are pioneers. It is a little bit underwhelming because of not in terms of special effects or in terms of stunts, but because of what it inspired and what it could then go on to do. Like the movie feels a little bit underwhelming also because I think, and this isn't the movie's fault at all, with the way the second, third, and fourth installments made us picture the setting, we went into it thinking like we were going to get like a very 80s like bow like vibe, and we're like, oh shit, we're in Australia. It's just
It was funny.
That's kind of what happened.
Some of the driving scenes, I'm like, oh, this countryside is beautiful. And I'm like, wait, this is post-apocalypse. See, that's why I thought of it as like it's a few years after whatever event in their universe creates an apocalypse. So like stuff has kind of grown back a bit, and people have maybe recovered a little bit. So there's a sense of normalcy that's still going on, but you still have, insane bike gangs and just insane people in general.
And that's where it's funny. The game, the movie, in a way, reminds me of games at the time. And let me explain what I mean by this. Due to, I don't know how to compare it one to one, but what I'm trying to get at here is when you're playing a game back in the day, right? The idea was you got to bust out that manual to know what the fuck is going on. So seeing the trailers after watching the movie, in a way, gave me more, even though the trailers weren't the best, gave me more of a feel for what the movie was about, which some people will be like, but that's what a trailer's supposed to do. Yes, but it's not like you're supposed to watch a movie without watching the trailer and not kind of know what's going on. And I feel like if I knew nothing about Mad Max, I would definitely be a little bit confused about what's going on. And what I mean by that is if you didn't know, yes, there's oil, there's problems with oil and other resources, and, there's definitely going to be scenes with biker gangs, you'd kind of be like, all right, there's cops. A few years later, okay, so clearly this is somewhat in the future, very 80s, even though it's late 70s, very 80s style of in the not-so-distant future. You're like, okay, that's happening. Right, and then out of nowhere, you're like, there's these cops, and there's this, the Knight Rider, and you're like, all right, that one guy is off his rocker. He's probably on coke or something. The one guy.
Oh yeah.
Then I would
argue the entire gang was on some form of coke.
But that's what I'm saying. Once you get to the whole gang, you're like, all right, wait a minute. This is just some crazy shit. Also, due to the fact that, low budget, you only see one gang, so it looks very much like, oh, everything else is just fine. Just this one area is kind of fucked. So it is.
Yeah.
It's a little, that's the thing, like, because it's before, the later installments that really, even though, to be fair, I haven't seen 2, 3, and 4, it seems like it opens it up to more of a worldwide, everything else is fucked too, not just Australia.
Yeah.
Because, again, if you didn't know about some of the potential dystopian future post-apocalyptic stuff, you'd just be like, it's funny. In an odd way, I feel like maybe they also were worried that people are going to be like, is this just Australia? And it's like, no, it's not.
Oh.
There's some shit going on.
Right, yeah.
Well, because it does in some ways, while it does feel over the top, obviously, in some ways, like you said, it does feel like just an action, not just, but it does feel like an action movie. Not so much like, guys, this is really fucking weird. It's not just
mixed
like...
with, sci-fi, in a way.
Yeah, well, because that's the thing. Like, it's not... In some ways, this movie arguably could just be considered like a type, I hate to use this word because I don't want to trivialize the movie. Not that I'm saying that this franchise is bad, but kind of like a Fast and the Furious sort of deal with, because of the cars and everything. It's like, no, but guys, there's some other shit going on too. It's not just the police chasing these gangs and everything. Like, not so much sci-fi yet, arguably, because again, because of the low budget, it was just like you said. That's a really nice countryside. Wait, no, this is the world's gone to shit. Yeah. So and I feel like we didn't get much of a world gone to shit vibe. So maybe that's something that, in a way, I don't say retcon necessarily, but was added in as maybe potentially as the movie went on, as the franchise went on. But this definitely was meant to, it was inspired, though, by the idea of lack of resources causing humans to fight. So it was inspired by that. But I didn't get that from the movie itself. It just felt like we got these really violent punks, which, to be fair, biker gangs were a huge problem back in the day.
Right, yeah.
Now everything's gone digital. Oh, I'm going to steal some cryptocurrency. Whatever, pansy. Get on a bike.
Yeah, right?
But biker gangs,
let's return to the age of biker.
Well, there are still biker gangs. They're just not as prevalent as they once were.
Right.
But, so to me, I feel like, actually what's really funny is some of the background bikers, they were actually real Australian biker gangs that, due to not having the resources, like the actual money to bring them in, they were like, can you drive from this one part of Australia to the set? And they were like, sure, man. So some of the bikers in the movie, the ones that clearly weren't doing their own stunts and blowing up and everything, they were actual biker gangs. How funny is that? So when they needed, I assume, when they had to pad it out and make it seem like, oh, there are a lot of fucking bikers here.
Right.
That was them. So that's really funny to think about. They got real bikers to come in. And as the filming process went on, the police were like, oh, hey, what's going on here? And the police were so interested in it that they would actually be like, you know what, guys, don't worry, we'll block the street for you.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because that was the other thing I was thinking. I was like, in that one scene where he's got to move past, the semi-truck moving the construction equipment, I'm like, so is that actually, did they just add that in because that actually happened, or?
Well, that's the thing, I assume certain things, they were like, all right, guys, let's drive this car in here and let's hope the cops don't fucking notice us. But then, as filming went on, they were able to gain the cops. The cops were like, nah, dude, this is actually pretty cool. The local police, anyway, in certain places. So that was nice.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, because, it's funny. It's just one of those things where it's funny when you say, low budget, when you look at the way the movie was made, and you're like, man, that's so cool. It's like, well, because back then, it was a low budget, but that doesn't mean, it's funny. A high budget doesn't always mean, a better movie. So it's kind of funny, because I don't think the budget would have affected the story at all, right? Because the action scenes were wow, on such a low budget, that's amazing.
Right.
Right? But and heck, not even just the action scenes, just the way they cut into certain kinds of like when Toe Cutter sadly met his end. I say sadly because I want him to meet his end, but maybe not in that way. Like I would have preferred Toe Cutter meeting the way the end that the other guy did.
Yeah, actually, that's funny. Okay, because I was going to say the same thing. I'm like, he got off pretty, like, considering he got flattened by a semi-truck. It still felt like he got off pretty easy for, killing Max's wife and child.
Yeah, and that other couple too, which he could have been like, whoa, we don't do that here. No, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one scene too.
Goose got burned alive too, because he was really
he's still alive.
pining.
He's just fucking.
Yeah, I know.
He's in a coma.
I don't even know what's worse at that point. Yeah. Especially in their universe, I don't think he's ever gonna recover from that. It might have just been better if he had just gone, because he's just gonna be in pain.
It's such an interesting thing. Yeah, no, because when you're someone who isn't Max, it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that. When you're Max, the way they built them up in this movie, very briefly in a way, but still did, it'd be like, I'm burned alive. All of my nerves are shot. Good, then I can't feel anymore. Max, no! Gets up and just walks away and fucking puts fucking bullets. Yeah, no, the way that was the fucking craziest thing. Like he got his leg shot, and then they ran over his arm, and he's just like, I still got another arm and another leg, and I'm like, damn, dude.
At that point, yeah, it's like, well, because for a lot of the movie, I'm like, so I wonder why they call him Mad Max, and then the gang kills his wife and child. I'm like, oh, there we go. That's why.
That is the maddening of Max. The thing. So I have a question for you. So do you? Maybe it's just me, but do you think that was the point where they should I'm sorry, the whole point of them killing his wife? Well, technically his wife is alive, just in a coma, but killing them. One of them. Do you think that they should have done that earlier in the film? Because I feel like, I'm not saying it should have been the first thing, because I don't want it to be like a typical Hollywood trope, but but with how long they waited to do it, to me it just kind of feels like, even though not necessarily a trope, but it felt like you kind of had the plot kind of just go on while Max, because I don't know, maybe, I don't know what other title the movie could have. Mad Max itself is a really good line. I don't know. It's a really good title in my opinion. Very iconic. So I don't know what else. I don't know what it could have been, but at the same time, it felt like it wasn't Mad Max's movie till the last 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Well, like you said earlier, it's kind of like an origin story, basically. I mean, it's the first movie, so obviously it's setting up the character.
But it didn't. It wasn't meant to be, of course. But it turned into one. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
We have to cut. So you guys just heard the bell ring. I had to go downstairs for a second. There'll probably be some bloopers of the in-between. I'm out of breath. Anyway, but I think you understand, yes, this is an origin story, not meant to be, but technically it has become one. But it's just so strange, if there was never a second Mad Max for some reason, then I don't know how this movie would have stood up to the test of time.
Right, yeah.
Nothing against the film or the creators, but you see what I mean, though, right? Like a movie calling it Mad Max, it feels like it. I don't know. It would be like saying JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but we don't focus on JoJo.
Right. I feel like they had to take the time to kind of because they were trying to build up the idea that Max was, he was a family man, and he had a kid and a wife, and he was trying to, I don't know, kind of hold on to that in the chaos of what's going on as being a policeman in this world. It takes a bit to kind of pick up on that here and there, but that's basically what they're going for. And it definitely
doesn't. Yeah, and I don't think it had to. That's why I'm saying I'm not saying it should have been the first scene in the movie.
Right.
But I think it took
built up. Because I feel like when they did kill them off, you actually felt for them because I don't know. I thought the wife was a cool character. It's not like, oh, you just met them and now they're dead, so you don't get that chance to actually connect with them a little bit.
Yes. which is definitely something that I'm happy. So yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Nowadays, more often.
It really fucking does, and it becomes a huge issue with films. So
Yeah.
in no way am I saying that it shouldn't have happened. Just, you know what it is? It felt like he was a man who had a sense of duty throughout the film.
Yeah.
But it definitely felt like we didn't really see him in action. Like, it definitely felt like it felt like it was like, this is a superhero movie, but the superhero is, I'm a cop who drive car.
Right.
And it's like, okay, but other people also drive car too. So what else do you have about you? And it's like, I'm resilient. It's like, yes, but again, we saw that in the last 20 minutes or so, not in the first hour of the film. So throughout the first hour of the film, frankly, in a weird way, we learn more about the gang. And I don't know, I guess you could say they were trying to do things as by the book as they could. And, of course, you see how Max starts off as this, again, this cop that's bound by duty, talking about how he's like, well, one day, I don't want to be doing this beat for so long that one day I become like them.
Right.
And he did by the end. So that twist, in a way, as he's driving off, literally we sit there and we're like, wow, yeah, like he became the exact thing that he did not want to become, which is why it's so interesting that they chose that other guy instead of Toe Cutter, because the other guy is the one who was at the scene of the sexual assault, and he was also, the one who killed Goose.
Yeah.
He didn't, and so just overall, it was so interesting to see how, again, Max flipped when really he was like, look, I want to get out of this game. I want to get out of this. I don't know what to do here. So that was interesting, but at the same time, it does feel like, though, that, they just kind of had Max around in some way or another. Like, and yes, Goose died, which sucked, and I'm not saying I didn't want to know less about Goose or know less about the gang or anything like that. It just definitely felt like when you name something after the character, it just feels misleading. Right. Like it'd be like, this movie is about Spider-Man, and then most of the movie is just Peter Parker, and we barely see Peter Parker compared to the rest of New York and other villains and other things going on. And then it's like, finally, he dons the suit, arguably. But imagine if it was like in the last 30 minutes, Uncle Ben dies. It's like, all right, guys. Like, it's kind of funny. It's one of those things where it's just like, when you saw the wife and kid, immediately you weren't going to be like, wow, they're going to do really well in this post-apocalyptic hellscape.
Yeah.
So, again, though, you might blame that on us being modern-day film watchers. So now that's become a trope, where maybe at the time it was shocking and gritty. Like, oh, he's a family man.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, they killed. Which, to be fair, I will admit, I don't think they would have killed the kid today. I will admit that.
I mean,
like, I think today, I don't know, man. I think today it would have been flipped. How's the kid doing? Oh, the kid's barely hanging on, but your wife is dead, sir.
Right, yeah, that's true.
No, they were like, wife lost an arm and she's in a coma, but man, did that kid die. And he's been standing there all day like a zombie. Jesus. It's like he's never had a kid die on him before.
Oh, yeah, right. It's like,
by the way.
Yeah.
I was going to say to you, sorry, I took a sip of water because, again, out of breath. So funny story. Lack of car seats, am I right? 1979?
Yeah. Oh, geez.
It's just literally just like, it's like, hey, beautiful. Just like, excuse me, I'm going to throw my kid in the back seat. Boom. Just like fucking shit, man.
Oh.
Fucking, like, honestly, I was surprised that the kid didn't survive. Like, fucking all those bumps in this fucking post-apocalyptic hellscape. You'd think the kid would be fine.
Yeah, right.
Like, everything that kid's lived through, I'm like, fucking add him to the gang. Shit. You had a dog on a bike, put the kid there.
Oh, my God. I mean, they were teaching him how to box, too, so. I think the kid
it was also the kid,
one of the members.
The kid playing with the gun, and I'm like, oh, shit.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Ha, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I was like, welp, this is definitely 1979, and this is not a movie made in America. But even then, I feel like standards would have been different in the U.S. as well. But still, I was like, oh, shit.
Still,
I was like, kids playing with the gun, kids just thrown in the fucking back seat. Wow. Then she drives off like, oh my God, just get it. When she stopped, I'm like, fucking, you could hear the kid's head hit the fucking windshield.
Oh, jeez.
Just, why is our little buddy in the front seat? He wasn't before. Get in. Just get in the car.
Oh God.
Oh my God! Even when they were when they actually were driving away with the old family friend, the old lady, who, by the way, deserves her own fucking movie.
Yeah, gee. Yeah, she was badass. Damn.
She got closer to killing one of them via gunshot than Mad Max. Do you understand that?
Right. Oh God. Oh,
also,
she got closer
like
than that cop at the beginning of the movie too. Jeez.
This woman is the best part of this entire movie, and I feel like no one wants to address it. Maybe the fans. I feel like it's like, guys, you could just make a movie around her, right, on the farm, defending it from the gang, and I'd be like, I'm in.
Martha.
Mad Martha. Yep. It's basically what it's. Yeah, so one thing I want to mention as well, and this is just something that is, again, it's a plot device. It's used in a bunch of different movies. Maybe back then it was new and it was original. But in general, I think it's a really, really bad, and I understand that under stress, under duress, people act differently. We're seeing this as two guys just sitting down watching a movie, right? But the fact that he's like, I got to get away from this and everything, and also these gangs. I mean, they fucking killed Goose, dude. This is too much. I have to leave. Okay. Yeah. Leaves with his wife, and just his wife is like, I'm just going to drive over there while there's gangs going around murdering and raping people. And he's like, oh, well, all right, cool. See ya. And then when she comes back, and clearly she had to have told him what happened in the car, she's like, I want to go down there and swim. He's like, fuck it, sure. Through the woods? Nothing bad happens in the woods. Fucking go down there. Like, this is Australia. If she wasn't going to get killed by the fucking gang, she was going to get killed by a giant spider. Like, how about you fucking... think about. I'm sorry, man.
That's true. Walking around in sandals is not a good idea. And always check your boots.
So,
that's like rule
boots
number one.
were literally the one thing I was like, that is needed in the film. Yes.
Yeah.
But no, I was just, I don't know, man. Like nothing against. I don't know, man. It's like I mean, technically it is something against it, I guess. But like, because I'm not trying to sit here and shit on it. It's just like, guys, it's really like you've made Max into like the most, in some ways, clueless person. Because it's kind of like, even when it's like, oh no, this bad thing happened to my wife. What am I supposed to do? Well, splitting up worked before when she was in the woods. So split up now. Sure, he probably thought grandma with a shotgun would be fine.
I get the feeling it was more of he didn't think they were going to, like, trail him.
Yeah, I know, but again, that's hubris, I guess.
That's true. I would say, he should have been a lot more paranoid about, like, oh, I'm just going to go down to the water and take a swim by myself. Honey, no, let's not do that. Just, give me 5 more minutes and I'll be done with this, and I will go with you. And we will take our child with us, because not leaving the kid alone.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder, while of course you had and I know things are different outside the U.S., but in the U.S. you had these very like 1950s family values, going on. But even with the family values, I do feel like the idea of protecting the child, I'm not trying to sit there and be like, yeah, no, if they weren't going to kill the kid, then, they were going to throw him. So, like, no, right? So, like, it's not like they're going to kill their kid or that they're happy about killing the kid, but, like, they as in the family is happy, right? Like, you don't see fucking Max being like, whatever, who gives a shit? No, he loves his family, he loves his kid. But I do think that the kind of culture has shifted. And again, I don't know outside the U.S., but in the U.S., the culture has shifted to the point where I feel like you'd see the kid in every shot with them. There wouldn't be like these extended scenes where it's the two of them having a romantic getaway. And for half of those scenes, I was like, oh, did they get someone to babysit the kid? No, the kid was fucking somewhere Because they were driving around with the kid.
Right. For them on the farm, I think, they had, the other older woman, she was keeping an eye on him.
No. But before
the
was
farm,
on a
blanket,
when
right next to the car too. Well, Max was working on it, so it's kind of the idea. It's like I can put the kid down on the blanket and nothing will happen. He's like right over there. I can look over and make sure he's still there.
Yeah, I'm not even referring to that. I'm referring to when they were going to not even the farm, just as they were driving before they met the mechanic, when they got the dog, which was really cute. When they're having that romantic like montage. They didn't show the kid, I think, once. And I thought, did they get someone to babysit him?
Right. I see. Yeah.
No, he was fucking there the whole time.
Right.
I guess maybe their explanation was maybe they couldn't film with the kid. Maybe, they were on location, so they couldn't bring the kid around. Maybe their in-universe explanation was, he was asleep. But I just wonder, how I see, like, the mentality has changed, where, like, the idea of nowadays, you're leaving your kid unattended, it would be met with people going, are you a fucking idiot? Where maybe back
and
then,
that's what we've always grown up hearing.
Yes. Where maybe back then, to be fair though, yes, post-apocalyptic. So I'm sure maybe you had some 1979 parents that were like, that's dumb, right? But at the same time, I do think maybe back then you also had some parents that are like, yeah, that's what you did. You fucking left your kid out and they didn't die.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if it's a mix between both. I do wonder if that's a possibility.
Yeah, it's probably a little of both.
A little of both. But because nowadays, again, I feel like not only would you shift the whole, the kid lived, because again, the kid dying, I think, even by today's standards, like, I don't know, maybe back then it was also shocking, but I think at one point, it's funny, it started off as shocking, then it became normalized, then it became shocking again now, seeing it, I think.
Right.
Like, I feel like there's just this cultural shift all the way back around.
It's funny. I feel like I thought they're, like, because as soon as the gang got wind of them, I'm like, they're dead. They're going to die. Oh, God, they're going to die.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But I honestly thought it was going to be more gruesome, kind of like how the first scene was with that couple.
And I'm happy it wasn't.
Oh, I'm so happy it wasn't either. Yeah. But yeah, and then
you mean
they
first
just
scene,
ran
like,
them
with
over,
the
which
couple?
is still pretty gruesome, but yeah.
Well, no, I think the reason why the movie, I think its low budget helped it, because I think if they had to add being more gruesome, even with, like, if they added some, they had the money to add more makeup to Goose's face, I think it's just a lot better to have it be up to the viewer's imagination.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than being like,
because
rather than
you don't
look at
even
his fucked up
see
face,
the gang. Right, you don't see Goose under the blanket, which leaving that to your mind just makes it that much more horrifying.
Yes.
And then just the idea of being burned alive is terrifying in itself. And then not seeing the wife and kid up close after they've been run over, because that was a lot of bikes, and that's a small child. And that's not a good. I've seen roadkill before, Matt. I don't want to see that.
You don't need to see it in human form.
No. Exactly. I don't need to see that in human form.
No. Another thing. Another thing too that I think
tastefully.
Yes, and something else I want to mention as well that I enjoyed. I enjoyed having villains that are villainous. Sure, we had the scene with, like, I don't like guns, but, like, other than that, we didn't have them be like, but let's not hurt the child because we have morals.
Right. No, they are just batshit insane.
Yeah, because I was wondering, like, are they bluffing with the kid? But once it's like, no, they're on the run, it's like, fuck it, why are we going to swerve out of the way of the kid? And I was like, oh, shit, like, they hit the kid. Like, I was wondering if there's going to be, like, at least one line of, like, we don't really want to hurt him, or like, hey, man, don't worry about that. But, like, no, it was just, heck, you even had some of the followers, like the one guy who was like, look, I was just trying to, prank the guy for Goose. I was trying to prank him. Like, I wasn't actually trying to hurt him. And it's just like, no, we have to kill him. And it's like, wow, like that's. Yeah, like he's sitting there. He's like, no, I don't want to do it. He's like, light it. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's really funny is when Toe Cutter had the joint, I wonder if they couldn't show him actually smoking it, like on camera.
Right.
No, because he says light it, and it's lit, but he never inhales or anything or puffs it.
Right,
I'm wondering if that was like a legal issue.
Maybe.
But just a funny side note. Also, I find it so interesting that they introduce characters like seemingly like the police chief and even some other police officers that they don't really delve into, but randomly Max is able to be like, I'm not doing this anymore, Chief. Well, let me explain something to you. I'm shirtless in my house with birds, but let me explain something to you. And I'm like, hello, Chief. How you doing?
Hi, Chief. Yeah.
Because I was wondering, I didn't know where they were until I saw Max going down the stairs. So at first I'm like, is the Chief in his office? Shirtless.
Right. Yeah, that's
granted,
what I
no
thought.
AC.
Are we at the halls of justice?
Yeah. But well, to be remember, no AC
playing every time you see the gate.
My God.
That was great.
So yeah. So but yeah. So I would say that. Again, while I mentioned earlier, a little, I hate the word underwhelming, but using the word underwhelming, we still have to acknowledge and respect this movie, being such a pioneer of what was to come. This was actually, so it's funny, I was doing a little tiny bit of research, not too much because I didn't have the time to, but I was doing a little bit of research on like how many films like this have existed, using the word dystopian and trying to look up that term. And it's funny, before this movie, according to Wikipedia, which take it, with a fucking grain of salt, but before that, only 40 movies had the dystopian banner of being considered like, oh, this is a dystopian film. And funnily enough, looking at all of them before 1979, not many of them even shared the same idea of what a dystopia is or the idea of being post-apocalyptic eventually. So in other words, like saying, oh, this movie is a dystopian movie, just like Planet of the Apes. No, it is not. So even when looking at other movies that claim to be like, oh, this is a dystopian film, seeing how it all differed, I think, looking at like Planet of the Apes, looking at the original I Am Legend, which was, I forgot, Last Man on Earth, looking at, what other films? There's some others that are escaping me. Oh, Soylent and Green, 1984, very different than this movie.
Yeah.
And it's funny too. 1984, written in the 1950s. I think 1954. Funnily enough, so Logan's Run also very different than this movie. But so it's interesting how seeing these early films, how they ended up making these movies and making the movies that we have now into what they are today. But definitely, though, we were saying earlier, it's a very slow film, very slow. So I don't know what the American – I say slow in the sense that, of course, they had the big action scenes, but even in between that, it was like the cars were still the focus, which was true, but like it wasn't even a lot of dialogue really to try to help you kind of figure out what's going on, like you said a little bit. Kind of like there were some points where you were like, what is happening right now? And so you have to sit there and be like, what do you mean no one showed up? And it's referring to the trial. Like during the police station scene, basically there was a trial, and everyone was so fucking scared that nobody showed up. So that's why they had to let that guy go, despite the fact that he was at the scene of God knows how many crimes.
Yeah, right.
The one guy at the scene of a lot of fucking crimes, and they had to let him go because no one showed up in court.
Right.
So, but it's a little hard to tell what's going on because it's like, what do you mean no one showed? And you're like, wait, no one showed to what? Well, you have to let him go. And you're like, oh, wow. Like, so no one, so I don't know what the American version did. I don't think they had, like, any kind of narration. So I don't know what they did to be like, oh, no, people won't get this. We have to add, like, I don't know what they fucking added to try to think like, oh, people are going to get it. Because I feel like if people weren't going to get it, you weren't going to get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, the whole idea of like, oh, the lingo used might not work. But just in terms of the movie itself, it was very much slow, and I feel like we were just supposed to accept, like, oh, this is just a random world. This is not ours. It looks very much like ours, but even though it says a few years ahead, still it's one of those things where, I don't know, what's funny? I want to talk to some older film fans, and I want to know if the phrase a few years later ever worked as like a device to make them go, yeah, that's, Sure, it's fake film, but yeah, a few years later, I see that.
Right.
Because it's funny how like it feels like society has both become unevolved, like it's kind of regressed, but also stayed exactly the same.
Right.
In some respects, you know.
But isn't that how all societies work?
well, it's funny. All jokes aside, right? I'm sure if we told people in the 80s, one day you'll have access to all this information, but the government will be monitoring it and know where you live, I'm sure they'd fucking love it. I'm sure no one from the 80s would be like, dystopian future, if we explained what happened with the recent Facebook fucking leaks.
Oh, jeez, right, yeah.
So to be fair, yes. Some people might, call it, but it's still very interesting. I don't know, just looking the way the fashion, like you said, how they took, like, it's not even like it's 80s or late 70s fashion in some respects, because you look at the biker gangs, and they're just a bit out there, Yeah. But again, maybe it's also the fact that we've seen what they've inspired and being like, that's not what people actually wore.
Right, yeah.
But, by the way, I would like to mention, I loved how, we got to see the wife, being a wife of a cop, kicking Toe Cutter right in the crotch and just being like, I'm driving away with the kid.
Yeah,
and then
I'm going to be honest, I didn't think she was going to get out of there.
What?
That first time. I didn't think she was getting out of there. I thought that was the end.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that 100%. I did not think she was going to leave. I thought that was where she was going to kick the bucket. And frankly, I didn't think the kid was going to get out of there either. Did you see how she swerved?
Yeah. Oh.
Like, that kid was unprotected in the back of that van going, wee! Wee!
Yeah.
And she's, I think the saddest death in the movie, and I know a kid died, so I probably should be focusing on that, but I think the saddest death in the movie was the dog hanging.
Yeah, oh, man. Like, it's only a split second, but I noticed it too, and I'm like, oh, why? I should have figured they were going to get the dog too, but goddamn.
At least you could tell that it's like a completely stuffed animal due to we're watching it, in the best quality possible, and also the fact that, it's this budget movie in 1979.
Yeah,
but still,
it's funny.
But
for me, well, not funny, but like for me, it was such a quick flash for me that I couldn't tell that it was a stuffed animal. Like, obviously, it wasn't the actual dog. I know that, but like, it was such a quick flash for me that it felt real enough, and I'm like, oh no.
I felt pain. It's like, no, Tristan, it wasn't the actual dog. They hired a stunt dog to kill. Like, no. No. No, but funny story. Some of the actors did their own stunts. It was so interesting. They asked them afterwards.
3 times through the air and then landed on the pavement? Yeah. It was awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah, right?
He's fun.
They asked him what his method was, and once he woke up from the coma, he explained it in full detail.
Oh, my God. And we've been recreating it ever since.
No, right? But yeah, so what I think was the most interesting part of the entire film was when they were like, when I thought the dog actually died, is when the wife went into to the back of the car and screamed, and I was like, or not the dog died, but he was going to die, because it's like, why is the dog whimpering? Oh God, what's happening to the dog? And one of the dude's hands was just chilling there with his middle finger up, and I'm like, well, shit.
I think
later
that was the guy who threw the chain onto the back of the car, and she kept going, and I guess it tore his hand off.
Well, he's clearly not the smartest one of them. I don't know which one is, but clearly it's not him.
None of them. I mean, I would say the second in command dude was actually more. I don't know.
Okay, good.
Obviously, they're all still psychotic, but he was definitely above the rest, and that's why he was second in command.
You see it too, then. Because I looked at Toe Cutter, I'm like, I don't think you're the smartest. You're the charismatic leader, but I think the smartest is the blonde dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
Even he was like, I want you to go back for Johnny. It's like, I'm not going back for him. He's a fucking lunatic.
So Yeah, this movie, very interesting, especially because, again, like, it wasn't what I expected. I think we expected something so much more than to get something so grounded with little bits of, no, because what I'm saying, when I say more than, I don't mean good. I mean, like, out there.
Yeah, no, I
like,
know, out there. I felt like they captured that well enough with this. Like, it's personally, I think they captured it well enough.
Well, when I say out there, I mean, like, again, I expected, like, desert wastelands, like, rock music everywhere. Like, I expected, like, I just expected this, everyone's in leather, which, to be fair, they caught that really well, but still. Yeah, that part. But you know what I mean, though, right? Like, based around, like, what the images, even because I know even before you saw Mad Max Fury Road, I feel like when you heard the phrase Mad Max, due to pop culture, you probably had a specific image in mind, both of him and the surroundings.
Yeah. No, that's true.
So so to see it just being like, this is Australia. That's another thing too, by the way. You were like, "Oh shit, this is Australian," because I assume Fury Road they went with like American or they went with something not Australian in terms of accents and.
I mean,
setting.
accents were I mean, I think the setting was still I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure, but
because it's been a while.
It definitely wasn't as much accent. That's true.
Okay, which is funny because Tom Hardy was Mad Max, so I thought they would have kept him with his accent, but I guess he went Merc.
Right. It's funny because I heard, a little bit, because when I saw the, Fury Road, like I was talking to my parents and they talked about, the original ones and stuff like that. So like I don't know, like going into this, like I knew it was filmed in Australia and, I know obviously it's a bit lower budget and it's not going to be, this total desert wasteland. Like that's the image that, like you said, that pop culture gives you, but I don't know, I kind of wasn't expecting as much over the top because I knew like how old the movie is now. So,
well, no, when I say over the top, I don't mean like over the top like gore or explosions. I mean over the top because again, I've never seen Fury Road. I've seen some gifs. I mean over the top, kind of like it was me, Dio, like that kind of over the top.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Also, just flamboyance, which we got a lot of that out of Toe Cutter, but I was expecting even more flamboyance. Like I was expecting like. I didn't know what to come in with because I've never seen the film before, and I didn't realize it's actually a lot more of a cop movie, really. Just it's like cop against evil gang, and arguably yes, as the movies go on, he's still technically with that mindset going up against eviler gangs, but they become so much bigger in terms of their theatrics is the word I'm looking for here. That's the word, theatrical. Okay. Yes, this was definitely not theatrical. Toe Cutter, yes, but there was, again, it felt like an air of, like, other than Toe Cutter, it felt like an air of, this is happening. What? Is it not supposed to be? I know what the plot is supposed to be going for, but the way it was presented to me, due to a lot of factors, came off that way, versus, in the fourth movie when it's the fourth movie. Like I've seen some character designs and I'm like, well, shit.
Yeah.
And even later ones as well, like what they do with Mad Max's hair and his outfit.
Right.
Like, yeah. Which, by the way, love the leather jackets from this movie. Not just because I have one just like it, but
Yeah.
No, I saw that and I was just like, I never even seen this film. Thanks, Mel Gibson. Even though, like, as if he chose the fucking, the fucking outfit. One thing I want to say, though, and it's not going to be the last thing we say, but we are kind of wrapping things up a little bit. The bad scene, the scene that I did not want to be in this movie, but I think it needed to be. I don't think the aftermath was good, where we had Goose and Max going and seeing this girl chained. I think that was horrifying.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't have been there. But them being dragged out of the car, the reason why I'll defend it... It certainly gives you an idea
of how batshit they are.
That's the thing, right? We need ways to hate villains, and I think just saying the phrase, oh, they kill people, okay, but I don't know about, to be fair, I don't know about at the time. Maybe at the time it's like, my word, they kill people. But at the same time, it's something that at least in this day and age, when you say the phrase, this person kills people in a film, of course, we're only talking about media here, not actual real life. Yeah. In media, you're like, okay, and what else do they want to do? Like, there's always some other thing. It's not just I want to kill people. Which, to be fair, when that's your only goal, I do admit that does sound terrifying. But when it's not even like to be a ruler, you're just like, I just want to inflict pain. You're like, oh no. But when you say I want to inflict, but when you say I want to inflict pain, and we don't care who we hurt, we don't care who we, who we do those kind of stuff to me, like, to actually assault both physically and even sexually, I'm like, oh, God, okay, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
So in that way, I think that it's truly horrifying, like this gang. So I think that I will defend it being in the movie, especially the way it was done. It was never shown. Because if they had shown it, they'd be like, nope, never watching this movie again. I hate to say it. I'd be like, Because it's really hard to be like, oh, guys, we really got to watch Mad Max. I mean, sure, there's a small rape scene, but other than that, like, it's really fucking hard. Because at least in something like in an anime, because there's one anime movie that I know about that has somewhat of it's a sexual assault scene that's actually being filmed as if because it's about an actress.
Right.
So it's actually so there's like other layers to it. So there's an anime movie that I know that has a scene like that in it. But because it's anime, there's some kind of divide in it, in my opinion. Where like, even though it's a movie and it's fake, you're watching real people. So it's just become skeevy and off-putting.
Yeah.
So if that was in this movie, it'd be really hard for me to be like, guys, let's go. I mean, again, though, I don't think we needed the scene with the woman. And also the guy running away with his pants off, which implies what the fuck happened to him too.
Yeah.
Just in general, I'm like, no. Both to him and to her, I'm like, nope, this is horrible, right? But I think the earlier scene of them stopping the two of them and actually pulling them out of the car, I think that's all we needed. I don't think we needed any more than that. But I will defend that being in there because, again, we do need to show how violent and just cruel this gang is because because if they didn't do that, they killed 2 people. Goose, because technically Goose, 3 if you count the kid.
3.
And the dog also. Yeah, because Goose is still technically alive. The wife is still alive. I mean, granted,
I know, I know that's
alive.
what the doctor was saying, and I guess, like, she is still on the table and she is breathing, but I don't know, half of that felt like a lie to me. Well, I mean, because then he's like, oh, don't, just tell him that she'll be all right, and it's like, doctor, you realize he's literally standing by the doorway. Yeah, I know, it's fine, he can't hear me anyway.
Well, she's in a coma. That's the thing. Kind of like just tell him she'll be okay. Well, doctor, how is she actually going to be? What rhymes with dead? You know what? Let's just go with dead. But yeah, I want a film surrounding the family friend of theirs on the farm, the woman. I want her in a film. Yeah. Also, I love how, like, I don't know if Toe Cutter was like pissing on the entire situation or he's actually scared of guns.
No, he was definitely pissing on the entire situation.
You think he is, but he was not happy about the gun. Like, he didn't look like he was happy. Like, to be fair, he actually looked legitimately like, shit, she has a fucking gun? We don't even carry guns. Like, isn't it interesting, too, by the way, they didn't carry guns?
I mean, I felt like they had a few. You just didn't see them all the time.
They never used them, though. The only people that seemed to have guns were the cops.
Yeah.
Which
no,
I don't even
pretty sure
think
they had them. They just didn't usually. I think it was more of they like to torture and not outright kill. Right.
Also, I want to mention, too, I don't think guns were outlawed in Australia yet. I'm pretty sure that happened in the 80s, not the 70s. So I don't think – no, because guns are officially outlawed in Australia, if you don't know.
Yeah.
So, like – so and that's we're not going to get in politics right now, but there's all this, debate because people talk about guns being banned in Australia and yada, yada. But I don't think guns were banned at this point in Australia. So – But it's interesting though, because like it's just funny how I don't know. I feel like the difference in cultures, if you will, because I feel like just in an American movie, it's like, well, why wouldn't they be using guns 24/7? The bad guys.
Yeah. Right.
But in this movie, not like Americans don't like cars, but in this movie, it's just so interesting that they went with something that wasn't like, you know, just showing them like constantly shooting everyone and everything, right? Like the only two people that have guns in this film are the good guys, the cops, and this old woman.
Well, because, I mean, they had that scene on the beach where Toe Cutter he had a shotgun he was leaning against. I don't know if they just...
You're right. You're actually right.
But yeah,
no, actually,
I know
I think
you're
right
like
about that.
In combat, they didn't... The only time you really saw them use the gun was when they ambushed Max at the end. When Johnny's...
Right, sorry, thank
him.
you, Yes, thank you. He did get shot once. You're right. So to be fair, I'm sorry, they didn't have guns, but I feel like but still, let me clarify that. In an American context,
you'd think
24/7.
A gang like
bam,
that,
bam,
right?
bam.
Exactly. You think when they rode into town the first time, they'd just be like shooting stuff up as soon as they walked into town.
Even into the air, you think they'd be like, pow, pow,
oh, that too.
Get us, try to get us, coppers. No, here, and you argue, you know, budget, but here they just have 2 shotguns and then like three, I guess, like 3 shotguns, and maybe the cops, of course, had some different models and stuff, but it's so interesting, right? Just less guns than you'd think, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know how the newest Mad Max was with, you know, that American influence, but still, all jokes aside, you would think like more guns, because, well, there's cops and there's robbers, quote unquote, and it's like, man, they're just on their bikes more.
Right.
So I think it's interesting to see different cultures kind of, you know, and their take on, you know, like gang violence. You know, mostly car-oriented versus cars. But, of course, you got to bring in those guns. So, I don't know, just interesting idea. You know, instead of, like, a Western in a sense, but with less, like, dueling at dawn. But there are duelings at dawn. It's just that it's more so centered around the vehicles.
It's more of playing chicken. Yeah, it's playing chicken with a vehicle instead of, you know, who can draw fastest.
Exactly, and that's what's extremely interesting. Also, you know, having Max bring out his fucking Batmobile at the end there was beautiful. It was being worked on throughout the film. That was where they, you know, earlier on when he was at the station, he was like, "What do you guys, you know, like, you guys done with that yet?" That's what they were working on.
Yeah.
It was just interesting to see Max bust that out finally and kind of become become this hero that we were waiting for, but I don't know. It's just one of those things where maybe because it's a brand new IP, like it's not based off of a comic, it felt like I didn't know when it was coming or what was coming or anything like that. So it's just one of those interesting things in the movie where, like you said, it was being an action movie, but because there's no other hero for us to kind of base this off of, like a Batman. I mean, Batman was around, but he wasn't as badass as this yet. He was Mr. I'm going around with Robin, you know. It's like he was Adam West Batman, which I love Adam West Batman, but he wasn't the Dark Knight.
Right.
You know. I would argue a movie like this is definitely what skewed them into the Dark Knight territory.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting film, very influential, very early, you know, like it kind of just paved the way for what we have today. So I want to give it all that credit, but still understand that over time, you know, does it hold up as much as it should? I feel like it doesn't hold up as much, but I still think it's an enjoyable film that I would recommend to people. And I definitely wouldn't want people to snub their nose at it, but I would like to remind them the context of the time, because I do think with all of the, even putting special effects aside, just how much money studios have to pump into their films. Even smaller films seem like they get money pumped into them, like a fair amount. That comparing this budget to like a budget for something like Deadpool, you know, and the violence that Deadpool had. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
You see what I mean? Like it's definitely different, to say the least, right? In terms of the, you know, the car scenes and the gore and the general. I mean, of course, different characters in both Max and Deadpool, but still,
Right.
there's definitely a different sense of vulgarity of heroics, and also seeing one thing I would like to mention though is even though Goose dying is a traumatic event, did he just have no other friends who like? It seemed like a lot of people died very quickly in that time frame. Like, was it like, did he never have, I don't know, maybe you could say, oh, it's just over the years, not just Goose, that was just the tipping point. But I don't know, like, we never really know much about the events beforehand, which I'm fine with, but it feels like, you know, it's like, oh, being a cop in Australia was just so peaceful up until the issue with the oil.
Right.
Like, it's not always peace. It's not really peaceful being a cop. You know what I'm saying? Like, terrible shit happens. But, yeah. So it's just one of those situations where I guess Goose was more of the tipping point than he actually was, like, the only reason.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. So that's just something I want to mention as we're kind of wrapping things up. Also, I want to mention the budget at the time. This is in Australian dollars, I believe, though. In Australian dollars, $350,000 to $400,000.
Shit.
That's in Australian dollars, though. I don't know what the conversion rate is, and I can't. And I also can't look at it because even if it's like, oh, Matt, the conversion rate is this. Yeah, but I have to go to like 1979, like to a website that shows you that conversion rate because obviously it's always fluctuating and changing. So I don't know what that means in U.S. dollars, but also I'm pretty sure Deadpool's budget was like $50,000 U.S. And just due to the fact that the way things change over time, the way special effects, computers, all the computers over time, you know, looking at the way Deadpool was done, like we have to explain to someone who's like, I love Deadpool and Fast and the Furious, to be like, expect something different with 1979's Mad Max, you know?
Right, yeah.
In no way am I saying that they're better. It's just that, again, over time, things have changed, filmmaking has changed, and it's definitely a product of its time. Very Knight Rider-ish in some respects. Literally, not just because we had Knight Rider in the name for that one guy, but definitely very much like, you know, it's a man in his car, which we don't get till like fucking last 20 minutes, but still, it's a man in his car. Anyway, so I think we can wrap some things up here. I'm pretty sure people are going to hate me for this Mad Max review. I think they'll tolerate you. They'll be like, Tristan's part of it was nice. It was good. But Matt shit on the movie, and he hates it, which I don't. I don't hate it.
They're mounting on their bikes right now and coming for you, Matt.
Jesus Christ. All right. Well, you know what? Omae wa mo shinderu.
Oh, no. Does that make me the Goose? Oh.
No, they'll like you.
Oh. Or am I going to have to avenge you? Oh, boy.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I have no idea what's going to happen with that. All I know is I have to admit there was a lot of subtle stuff that, you know, again, just because there wasn't dialogue, just little stuff that I think adds on to, I think, some stuff where, like, people have to, one thing also I have to mention, one pet peeve of mine, I think this is yours as well, people not paying attention to a movie.
Yeah.
So, like, in other words, and then being like, this movie sucks. That's why I very rarely say, like, this is horseshit, because I know that sometimes I'm writing up notes. So, like, I hate it when someone's like, this movie sucks. How did this happen? How did we know this happened? And I'm like, no, they showed it. They didn't say it out loud, but they showed it.
Yeah. And that's why,
so definitely
like,
that's one
for
thing,
me, I was a little confused at the beginning, but as the movie went on, I started to pick up on a lot of things that were going on. I'm like, oh, okay, now I know where we are now. I got this.
I mean, they literally were stealing oil on the spot. Like, clearly it's like, there's some problems here.
Yeah, from the tanker.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so wrapping this up, thank you all so much for listening in, as always. Any last words you want to say before we, maybe not next week, but we'll soon talk about Mad Max 2 and see how fucking post-apocalyptic this gets. Like, I'm pretty sure the second one goes full on, but I know the third one is, like, fucking nuts. No, because, like, Mad Max 3 is called Beyond the Thunderdome. I think they go pretty fucking full on in the third one. Yeah. But I want to see if the second one goes full in or if they're still doing, like, the transition between. That's what I'm interested in. I know that he grows his hair out a little bit, so he looks a little bit more like shit's going down. But I do wonder, like, what happens with his wife, what's going on there. Because literally you just have him driving off, not even into the sunset, like just into his pain and sadness. So to be honest, like, I imagine this was only like one film. Like, it would be so hard, I think, to be like, only this one? Like, in a weird way, this film was made to have a sequel. I don't know about 4.
Right.
No offense, like, I don't think anything bad, but I don't know about 4, but like, this film was definitely made to have like at least one sequel. Because I don't know how I'd feel if like it just ended with Mad Max is mean now, and he drives away, and his wife isn't dead, but fucking Goose probably wishes he was. Good night, everyone. Like, Jesus. But anyway, is there anything you want to say, or I just want to before we wrap it up?
No, I think I'm good. I had a good time.
I did too. You know, I sound like I'm a complainer, but I definitely did too, and I appreciate all the work that went into this movie, and I think that's what I look at the most, like the work that went into it, and also just the acting in general. I think was really good. Just like from like I mentioned, like I wish we got more from Max, but I think Mel Gibson's, like, I think a lot of actors today. And I'm not even trying to do like a spiel. Just in general, I notice it from people having to fake injuries in movies and TV shows all the time. I feel like actors today just don't. Some of them don't really do a good job of doing the whole, oh no, my leg. But it really looked like, not just because we could see the shot, although maybe that added to it. It looked like his leg was fucked.
Yeah, he blew out his freaking kneecap. I mean, to be fair, him hobbling on it, like, I really don't think he should have been able to get up from that, but damn. I would assume the adrenaline and the rage, but...
No, but he was dragging it in a way that I feel like today it would be a lot less limp. Certain actors, like, I feel like I'm sitting there, I'm like, Mel, have you gotten your leg broken before? Do you know what it's like?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, like, do you see what I don't know if you've seen, like, because there's certain actors, especially, like, you know, certain films, even some stuff, I'm not picking out anyone in particular, but even some stuff on, like, The Walking Dead, where it feels like people forget, like, you know, your leg is broken, or your leg has been shot out, or there's something off with your leg. But it feels like in this movie, like, it really felt like it was just a long, uncomfortable limp to that car with a broken arm.
Yeah.
So I feel like in that way, like, a lot of physical acting that really, you know, was on point. Even just Toe Cutter, just when he walks around, he just rolls for no fucking reason. It really was. It was interesting stuff. So I really do appreciate the movie, and I can't wait to see the sequel. I don't know if it's going to happen next week, but if you guys are wondering, you know, is it going to be next week? Is it going to be on the next Friday Night Movies? Well, you know what? You can find out by going to our main website, which is tgproduction.net. You can find out on our main Facebook page, which is facebook.com/thoseguysontheradio, or at our Twitter, which is @thoseguysradio, or even you can even go to our iTunes, by the way, which we're on iTunes as well. You go to our iTunes, which is search up Those Guys on iTunes, and you'll find all of our podcast archives there. Also, if you're listening to us through Blog Talk Radio, you can actually find us on blogtalkradio.com/thoseguysontheradio, or you can even go to our main YouTube page for our Those Guys on the Radio podcasts. Just search up Those Guys on the Radio, and you'll find our podcasts there. We're constantly uploading our archives. We have over, I think it's over, 500 hours of content, over 600 episodes at this point, I think, or nearing 600 episodes. We've been doing this for a long time, a lot of different episodes of a lot of different stuff. You and I, Tristan, recently we've been doing Cloverfield stuff for Friday Night Movies. We've also been doing, what else? Cloverfield, Jurassic World we did recently. We did Star Wars Episode 8, which was also a very interesting piece of cinema, it was very divisive. And yeah, so we have a lot of different stuff, both on our podcast channel and of course on our Let's Play general gaming channel as well. You can search up Those Guys Play to find it there. Recently, Tristan and I also did, what was it that we did? We did Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee for the GameCube, and I also, did I kick your ass? Did I not kick your ass? Not just in that, but also in Super Sleepover when you and I played Dragon Ball Z. We played Budokai, but we played it for the GameCube, which is something that I had never done before. So,
okay, listen here,
which
you.
would not. Yeah, right. Just
you meet me on the highway in an hour.
All right, sure. So you can find those over to those guys' Play channel, and also find some very interesting, fun skits that we've done over at our Teacher Productions YouTube channel. And again, you can see all that posted on all of our different social media accounts and all those fun episodes and podcasts and stuff like that, other gaming-related videos as well. Also, go to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/teacherproductions, if you want to give to us, help us keep the lights on, and also suggest. What's funny is it's a suggestion if you tweet at us at Those Guys Radio, or if you email us, or if you post in the comment section below. It's a suggestion, right? We'd love to adhere to you guys' suggestions, and we'd love to do what you guys want us to do. But we have a lot of different content on the channel, on all of our channels, so sometimes it's hard to get to a suggestion. So going to our Patreon, depending on what tier you give to and what you say, hey, we would like you guys to do this kind of podcast, or this kind of Let's Play, or this kind of a video game review, or something like that, or a top 5 video, or something like that. When you say that, and you give to a tier, that's basically saying you're going to do it, right? So that's kind of like an express line, essentially, right, where, we want to take all your suggestions. We have so much to do and so much different content, and we also have lives of our own somewhat. So it is a little bit hard to get to everything we'd like to. But when you give to the Patreon, you're basically saying, you guys are going to do this, and we do it as soon as we can. I will literally wake up Tristan in the middle of the night with a Skype call and be like, we're doing a Let's Play. So or whatever it might be. And depending on what tier you donate to, you could also end up basically becoming a sponsor for the show. We can give you guys a shout-out at the end of different podcasts or different Let's Plays or other gaming-related videos as well. So a lot of cool stuff there. Again, thank you all so much for listening in as always. And if you're watching this YouTube, you can like and subscribe if you like the video. And if you didn't like the video, you can still like and subscribe either way. Doesn't change that. You still could. And definitely comment below with your thoughts on Mad Max and also what you might want us to do in the future. Right? If you want us to do Mad Max 2, if you want us to leave and never discuss this franchise again, you don't get Mad Max. You just don't get it. Yeah, anything you think, we'd love to hear it. But either way, I guess I would say, at this point of the podcast, you could say good night, Tristan.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Stay mad. I don't know. Don't be like Max. Don't be like Max. Practice proper road safety. I don't know.
Oh, my God.
Good night, everyone.
Got it. Floor it.
Yeah, floor it, everybody. Good night.